Welcome to the Private Practice Startup Podcast, where we help mental health professionals grow their dream practices and live a life they love. We chat with successful private practitioners, business coaches, and marketing experts, bringing you tons of practice building tips. We invite you to take advantage of our private practice paperwork and our signature marketing e-course. And we have a gift for you. This is the exact methodology we use to create our six-figure private pay practices and have helped many other therapists do the same. Go to privatepracticestartup.com and on the homepage, click the button to download a free copy of your dream private practice playbook. Now on to today's episode.
Hey, Startup Nation, welcome back to another episode of the Private Practice Startup Podcast. How you guys doing today? We're recording this in the month of January with our coach, Dr. Kim Grosher, and she's in very bitter cold New York and told us she's going for a run. Oh my gosh, us Floridians would never dream of doing that. Woo! Anyways, I digress. It is Katie, Kim, and Kate talking about how to build a values-driven business. So we're going to be talking all about this topic, which we absolutely love. But before we dive in, we hope that you joined us last week as we welcome back Barbara Griswold on the podcast, talking more about the clinical side of business and how to get those darn treatment plans done and completed quickly. So she actually kind of gave a framework for doing a 10-minute treatment plan. So if you're doing treatment plans, if you need to get it done faster, she gives you basically the down and dirty how to get it done quick. So on today's podcast, like I said, it's going to be our private practice coach, Dr. Kim Grosher, myself, and Kate, diving in really on how to create a values-driven business. But before we do that, we always want to say thank you to our sponsors because they are what makes our podcast go for, oh my God, like literally this is our 7th year, which is crazy to me.
Wow.
So 7 years of podcasting. And really, we couldn't do it without our sponsors. So let's take a quick moment for our sponsor.
As a therapist, you're probably too preoccupied with your caseload to want to think about bookkeeping and taxes. Herd is a full-service accounting software platform built specifically for therapists that helps you track and improve your practice's financial health. Regardless of whether you're a seasoned clinician or you're in the first year of your practice, Herd will help you identify areas for growth and streamline best financial practices for your business. When you sign up with Herd, you'll work directly with financial specialists to track your income and expenses, file taxes online, and grow your business. You'll also receive financial insights such as profit and loss statements and personalized monthly reports. Say goodbye to poring over spreadsheets and guessing your tax deductions or quarterly payments. Focus on your clients and Herd will take care of the rest. Plans begin at $199 per month for solo practices and $299 per month for group practices. Schedule a free 15-minute consultation at joinherd.com. That's joinherd.com.
Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hello.
It's good to be here. I'm excited about this topic. A couple months ago, this had popped into mind for one reason or another. And I was like, Kim, you want to come on and do this podcast with me? And she's like, yeah, love the topic. And then we told Katie, and Katie was like, wait a minute, you can't leave me out. I've got to be on it too. So here you are with all three of us and Kim's dog, Mr. Marley, who's in the background. Shout out to Marley.
Yes, co-therapist, co-coach, co-everything. Yep.
Awesome. That's great. Well, I guess we could probably start off by talking about what does it mean to have a values-driven private practice? What does that mean to you, ladies?
Good question. I see Kim thinking over there.
Yeah, I think for me, it means having my values at the core of what I do. So I think of it like a circle and then everything else kind of radiating out from it. My values inform my business structure. They inform the clinical work that I do. They inform how I design my systems and my processes. So how my clients are treated from the time they first contact me to the time we discharge. To me, it just informs so much of what I do.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Yeah. It's interesting that my word for the year this year in 2023 is alignment. And that's what comes to mind for me. Kim's doing a little dance.
Yes.
That's my word of the year this year. And having a values-driven private practice means that I'm living in alignment with my goals, my dreams, my needs, and what I want my business to look like for this phase of life that I'm in, for this stage of life that I'm in. And that evolves. And so it means that I'm checking in with myself to make sure that at the core of who I am and my family and my life that I'm creating, that my business is really supporting that. And I'm in touch with what those values are that I want to hold dear and I want to protect and I want to preserve and allow them to inform all of the decisions that I make. Katie, what do you want to add?
I would say a little bit of a different kind of answer, right? Because I'm in a different phase of a different business right now, and values really kind of are the anchor, right? So when you're in you're in different phases of business, so you're in the bootstrapping phase or the growth phase or whatever, when your business is nice and systemized and it's running smoothly, great. But I think for me, I almost said a values-driven podcast, a values-driven business is something that's an anchor where you go back to and reflect, right? It's kind of like, wow, I'm overworked and overwhelmed. Like, what are my values and what are my values in my business and what do I communicate to my clients? And am I living that right now? And then what adjustments do I need to make? So it's like the anchor to go back to really gain clarity. And it's so simple. I know in one of our previous podcasts, I talk about going into business for the first time and not knowing anything about values. And you're just you're the hamster on the hamster wheel. You're just doing what you get results, but they're not intentional. They're not clear. They're not purposeful. They're not thoughtful sometimes. So I think when you have a values driven business, it creates more intentionality, more clarity, more simplicity. So that's, I think, what it means to me, and also an opportunity for me right now with where I am in another business to go back and do a little check-in, which we're actually going to talk about too.
Yeah.
Kim,
I like how you brought that up, because when I first got into private practice in 2006, I had no idea about anything related to entrepreneurship. Although I came from a family of entrepreneurs, you'd think that this would be something that I would be very well versed at. And I had to learn a lot of things the hard way because there weren't a lot of resources then for private practice. And having a values-driven business was nowhere on my radar and wasn't on my radar for the first few years. And I really struggled. I struggled in a lot of ways of business and feel like I bent over backwards for clients. I wasn't working my ideal schedule. I was working as a generalist, seeing people that weren't really my ideal clients. I was working at all sorts of crazy hours, burning the candle at both ends, and potentially setting myself up for burnout. And that is the opposite of a values-driven private practice. So if you can relate to that, you know what that feels like. It's a struggle, and it's not sustainable, and it's not healthy. And to be able to take a step back and really get clarity on what those values are, first and foremost, is the perfect place to start. Kim.
Yeah, and I'd love for Kim to share a little bit about that. Let's just take a quick moment for our sponsor.
Are you tired of running to the lobby to see if your next appointment has arrived? Would you like a more discreet, stress-free way for your clients to check in? Take a deep breath. The Receptionist for iPad empowers your practice to create a Zen-like check-in experience. This episode is sponsored by the Receptionist for iPad. It's the highest rated digital check-in software for therapy offices and behavioral health clinics used by thousands of private practitioners across the country, including many who are just getting started. The Receptionist for iPad is a simple, inexpensive way to allow your clients to discreetly check in, to notify providers of a client's arrival, and to ensure your front lobby area is stress-free. The software sends an immediate notification to the therapist when a client checks in and can even ask if any client information has changed since their last visit. Start your 14-day free trial of the Receptionist for iPad by going to thereceptionist.com/PPS, as in private practice startup. And when you do, you'll also get your first month for free when you sign up. That's thereceptionist.com/PPS.
As a therapist, I can tell you from experience that having the right EHR is an absolute lifeline. I recommend using therapy notes. They make billing, scheduling, note-taking, telehealth, and e-prescribing incredibly easy. Best of all, they offer live telephone support that's available 7 days a week. Look, don't take my word for it. Do your own research. Therapy Notes is the #1 highest rated EHR available today with 4.9 out of 5 stars on Trustpilot and Google. Go to therapynotes.com and enter code PPS as in private practice startup and receive a special 2-month trial, absolutely free. And hey, if you're coming from another EHR, no worries. Therapy Notes will import your demographic data quick and easy at no cost to you so you can get started right away. Trust me, don't waste any more of your time. Go to therapynotes.com and enter code PPS for your 2-month free trial. So many of you are probably thinking like, well, what do you mean by like values, business? How does that all relate? So Kim?
Yeah. So that's often a question that I get asked by coachees when they get to the part of the e-course where they're thinking about like, what are my values? Like, what are the values? And how are they going to inform my business? For a lot of people, they look at it as just like choosing a list of words off a sheet of words, of values. And I try to explain that it's a lot deeper than that. Like you said, Katie, it's an anchor. It's also like a core. It really helps you figure out, okay, what do I want to do next? What decisions am I making? How am I making these decisions? So I got excited when you talked about alignment, Kate, because that's one of my values for my business is alignment. And so that goes in so many different directions. So one thing is that I'm a yoga teacher as well, right? A yoga and meditation teacher. And yoga, there's a lot of like actual physical alignment in yoga, but also I help my clients to align their mental, physical, spiritual health with their goals, with, things they want to see happen in their careers and their personal life. So everything I do is really about alignment, as well as, like you said, my business has to align with my life, right? And what I want and where I am in life. So an example of that right now is, I see clients 3 days a week. And a lot of that is because things have shifted in my family life where I'm having to be more available to my aging parents. So that leaves me more time to be available to them, but also to still work in my business and do what I need to do. So instead of like, well, I have to work all these days and then I have to figure out time for my family, like it feels more aligned to me to be able to say, this is when I'm available and this is when I'm not available to both, aspects of my life. So that's one example of alignment, and how it plays a role in my business.
And interesting, and I'll say this, Kim, because you are our coach and our private practice coach, and you're very good about communicating that. Like, I'm signing off, or I'll be off for this weekend. And so you're very good about communicating that value. And it gets respected, right? So when you communicate, it gets respected.
Right, exactly. And I find that a lot of times as therapists, especially, we tend to have a hard time with that, right? Because we kind of have this idea that we should be available to any and everybody, available at all times to our clients. And yes, we need to be available maybe more than most industries, but that doesn't mean that we have to be completely available. We can't set any boundaries with our times. We can't set any limits. And so I think it's really important to understand that as somebody's building their private practice.
And so what are some examples of some values? I know you said alignment is yours.
Yeah. So another one for me is authenticity / genuine. And I put genuine because I think authenticity is a word that gets used a lot, but for me, it means genuine, right? And so really being honest upfront with my clients, with people I work with, like contracting with vendors, things like that. Like you said, keeping lines of communication open, but also being myself, and so I like to laugh. I am really interested in the person and making them comfortable. I want to be able to be myself in the in the relationship, whether it's with the client or with a contractor or whoever I'm working or a coachee, right? I've been in situations, professional situations where it didn't feel safe to be myself, right? Whether that was the way I wore my hair, whether that was the way I spoke, whether that was, being the minority in the room. And so one of the things I vowed to myself as I started my own business is that I'm not going to put myself in those situations. I'm always, and even when, it may be uncomfortable to somebody else, I'm always going to show up as me, right? I get to define, how I decide to show up, who I am. And I think that's also one of the great things about being in private practice and being in your own business is that you get to decide who you work with, right? So a lot of times we look at niching or specializing as this discriminatory thing where it's not that at all. It's really also about giving yourself permission to show up as who you are so you can do your best work and who you can do that with.
So important. And, I think your story really just highlights, a lot of times people, like you said, people look at the paper and what I'm supposed to pick up words. And, our instruction is always just be guided intuitively. And so, your business values are really actually no different than your personal. It's just something many people haven't really explored, but you can't have separate business values and separate personal. And like you said, kind of show up authentically. Now there might be different things that you do in your business or whatever, but most often it's aligned to who you are personally. Mm-hmm. So I love that you share the authenticity, but it means genuine to you, as well as Kate shared alignment. And I forget what your first one was. Oh, you said alignment too. Yes. Okay. Mm-hmm. Awesome. And, for me, I think it's funny because any personal work that I've done would kind of always go back to being a coach or a teacher, right? I know in school, I wanted to be a vet. Who didn't want to be a vet, right? When you're in elementary school, or a teacher. And it's funny because I remember thinking back and doing those exercises, what did you want to be when you grew up when you were a little kid? It was teacher. And I'm I'm not a teacher. And I'm wait, but I'm a natural coach and educator. So education is an important value of mine, and being able to give people education so that they make the best decisions that they can for themselves and their lives. That's an important value to me. And I like to be educated, and I like to know all the details and ask 5 gazillion questions. That's who I am, but that's also what I like to give.
Yeah, it's so interesting when you take a step back and you really look at what your values are and do this at different points in time in your business. So for me, I was starting my business in my 20s. What my business looked like and what my values were at that time and being in alignment with that is completely different than how it was in my 30s and my 40s. And I'm sure it'll be very different in my 50s and 60s and beyond. And so life evolves, and we have all of these different phases and stages of life, whether it's, your family life, or you love to travel, or maybe like Kim said, she's got aging parents. And so those needs come up, or maybe yourself, you have a health issue that comes up unexpectedly, and, you need your business to evolve and to shift so that you can stay in alignment with those values. It's just so helpful to take a step back and really evaluate what your values are. Are you in alignment with them? And if not, what needs to be different so that you can be more in alignment? And what kind of difference will that make for you, for your business, for your family, for your life, and how you want to live?
I'm remembering the last few years, Kate, for us, and, being in the pandemic, and you were home with 2 young kids. And gosh, I remember the bout of 12 to 14 weeks of one kid being sick, and, all this stuff was going on, and you were just really overwhelmed and stretched thin. And also you're growing getting ready to launch a third practice. And I could just see it on your face, and you'd communicate it. And it's interesting because, like you said, the values had changed, but then there was almost this conflict for you because of our relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your value to me, meaning your loyalty to your commitment and stuff like that. So you struggled for a bit. I know you had to reflect and process, but the beautiful thing is then We just had a time and we talked about it and where you're at and what you need. And we talked about what the private practice startup could evolve in, and it works, and we keep going, and we work way less, and, we continue to make good income, and it's really evolved, and for the betterment of both of us. Right. But without you, having that conversation with me, we wouldn't be where we're at, and you'd be out of alignment. And, so that's a good example of how things evolve over time.
Yeah, a business definitely evolves. And, I feel so grateful to be where we are now after working through all the icky stuff and, trying to find that right place. And, when you have a business partnership, there's a commitment there, and there's a loyalty there, like Katie said, and you don't want to let your partner down. But at the same time, you have to be true to yourself and your family and how it's evolving and your needs and what you need life to look like, and what you can give, and what your passions are, and the areas that you want to stay focused on. So I hope you guys are able to think about this conversation that we're having, and whether you're a solopreneur or a group practice owner, or maybe you have a business partner, it's all about taking that step back and really asking yourself and doing that check-in to make sure that you're living in alignment. And if not, make changes so that you can be, because it does make a tremendous difference in your own life and the impact that you make, whether it's in therapy, whether it's in coaching, whether it's in retreats, e-courses, or other online type of business models. It is something that's really, really important. Yeah. Kim, I'm wondering what's standing out for you as Katie and I are kind of talking a little bit about our own perspective over the past couple years and how we've made some changes in the business.
Sure. I'm just thinking about my own business and like how, before COVID, I really wanted to be able to go back and forth between New York and Florida. And that was something that I had dreamed about for years. And my own coach helped me say, okay, well, then just do it, and I did it, for several years, where I had the office in, South Florida that I rented from UK. And then, I'm primarily based in New York, but I would go back and forth because I used to live in Florida as well. So, Fort Lauderdale feels like a second home to me, and I loved it. But then when COVID happened, I let go of my office in the city, because it didn't make sense. I was already very accustomed to doing virtual, and on some level I wanted to eventually transition, or I thought I wanted to transition to a completely virtual practice. So for a little while I was in my element. I was mostly in New York because, we all couldn't really travel like that. And it worked. And so now I'm in a different stage where I'm wanting to be out again. I'm wanting to go spend more time in Florida. And so I'm transitioning. And also I've been missing some of that face-to-face interaction with clients, that in-person interaction. And so I've recently, rented an office space here in Westchester County, New York, 1 day a week, to kind of dip my toe back in to see like, well, I'm available this 1 day if people want to be seen in person, but I'm still mostly virtual. And also I can communicate to new clients that want to be seen in person that like, I really do work from a hybrid model. So there might be times where I'm out of town and your session is going to be virtual. Is that okay with you? So really setting it up so that it works for my life and what I want right now, but I'm still able to meet my clients' needs.
Very cool. I like that evolution story and kind of connecting. One thing that we hadn't mentioned, but I kind of alluded to it when we're talking about my own perspective of values is, when you know your values personally and professionally, and they become the anchor, is you get to make decisions about your business based on your values, right? It doesn't become, well, we really need to fill this position, or we need to hire another therapist, and we need them to work with children because we don't have a child therapist. And you're looking to hire for the position rather than the alignment. And I'll say, from being in management and leadership for 20 years, when you hire for culture and value, that people that are connected to your values, those people often stay, and it works. Whether it's hiring even someone outside of that, whether it's your web designer or something like that. So, when you go back to the anchor of your values, your business and life become, much more simple. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. And you could even really think about this with the population that you serve. Are you in alignment with the population that you're most passionate about? And if passion is a value of yours, like it is ours, here at the Private Practice Startup, that's one of our values. And it's one of mine, as well, is staying true to your passion and what what really lights you up with the population that you work with or who you serve, and making sure that you're staying focused and in alignment with that. Because if you're not, then your passion can dwindle, and then you're not in alignment with having a values-driven business. So it even comes in that capacity. There's so many different facets in your business and in your life where you can ask this question: am I in alignment with my values here? And if not, how can I change that? And I encourage you all to take time to just carve out that time in your schedule, prioritize it so that you can, this is what we call working on the business. And it's, because the day in and day out stuff that we do all day long for the business, seeing clients and all of the other roles all of the other hats that we wear, it takes away from that focus of working on the business. So when you take that step back and you can make sure that you're evaluating these different areas, it allows you the opportunity to create those changes and necessary shifts so that your business can evolve and you can have it in that place where you're truly fulfilled and rewarded and happy with the business, with the life. It's really powerful.
Yeah. Well, we hope that you guys enjoyed this podcast. And if you are really looking to work on your business and create a values-driven business, don't forget to check out our marketing e-course, which you can check that out on privatepracticestartup.com. And Kim is one of our coaches. So you could work with her on your values and really create a values-driven business, amongst many other things in the e-course. And we hope that you guys join us next week as we interviewed our good friend Patrick Casal, talking about his new endeavor, which he's just really aligned to do anyways, because he's a world traveler. And he really talked about hosting retreats, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So check that out if hosting retreats is in alignment to your values.
I'm excited for that episode.
It's good.
Yeah, Patrick's always great.
Yeah.
Join us next time. We hope you guys have an awesome, inspired day, everybody. Kim, thanks for being here with us. And
thank you. It's always a treat.
Yes, we feel the same way. All right, Startup Nation, we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining us on The Private Practice Startup. Visit theprivatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, free trainings, attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and so much more.